Morning class. This is going to be a short one, but I thought I'd share my experiences at nerd conventions and why I think most nerd conventions are a form of social control, and why I believe they are just pretty much as excuses for the queer culture, meaning that our desires are put under a veil, and that by attending a convention, someone can express something that society disowns and shames upon. So, for those who don't know, what's in a nerd convention? Um, I attended a few in my teenage years and early 20s, but nerd conventions have video games and sadly now board games, sadly, and some pretentiousness they call it tabletop games. Often you'll know about furries or anime, fan arts, actual LARPing. That's a thing. People actually LARP, and it's a whole hobby of its own, even though people use the word facetiously. Science fiction, no longer, no one reads anymore. No one cares about Isaac Asimov or anything like that, if it is a thing. Art projects, it used to be cool bootleg stuff, not anymore. Or any object around to that theme, a convention would sell horror VHS tapes or non-sports trading cards, etc. Long lines and people dressing up and things like that. You know, it's antisocial people meeting to be social, often emulating decadent and normative culture. That's why you have now this whole gamer fetishism, because the market knows that gaming is the next form of medium to socially control people. And now you have, girls thinking they're gamer girls or something like that because they had a boyfriend or. But I was watching a video, the Down the Rabbit Hole series, and, it's kind of like a video essay version of the Encyclopedia Dramatical articles I used to read in 2007 of Kristen Wilson Chandler and whatnot. And he had a really general one about furries. And I watched it, and I thought it was very informative. It was very interesting. But the themes of the old 70s to 80s convention culture is fascinating. And it made me think about the development of furries and how the origin of the kind of furry fan club were just, older men living in their parents' basement, into nerd language and whatnot, antisocial, and the Disney cartoons and the underground comics and this old concept that being an animal means you're free and non-human and you can express your true desires. You didn't have that rom-com fantasy in your teenage years or 20s, so now you're a late bloomer and you're going to express it as an animal and things like that. And if you watch this video, there's complaints about an individual noticing that the furry fandom was becoming decadent and depraved, and they all became, men wearing animal costumes looking for sex. And how could you base a fandom around that? It sounds like it's very sleazy, and no one would like that, and no one in their right mind would. And the viewer makes something really interesting, that the furry fandom is a gateway into bestiality. And I look into this, and I realize that's so true. Vice had basically a video titled "The Truth About Furries, Fandom Not Fetish." And it's okay to be a furry because there's a market to exploit. And I guess it's a cultural generation that if you grow up watching Robin Hood and you have a thing for gay furry men with bulges, then I guess that's a thing, right? Well, one of the most controversial podcasts to appear last year was Zooier Than Thou. And the video is entitled, "It Starts With Respect." And these are basically furries or ex-furries who talk about bestiality, having sex with animals, and taking the subculture to a whole new level that's it's not about a human dressing up as an animal. It's the desire to get with the animal, that it's interspecies-like, and that sex should be done with animals, not other people dressing up as said animals. And that's something true about desire. Now, there's some other video essay people who made a huge, witch hunt against Zooier Than Thou, saying it's the worst podcast of all time, take it down. But this is quintessential queer culture. And I strongly believe that the furry fandom was nothing more than a gateway towards bestiality, to some kind, because our true desires represents the animal. And because there's no human animal animoids, human half animal hybrids in the world, the next thing you can do is get with animals until they make the technology to have, like, the penis of a gorilla in the body of a dragon, which they're kind of already doing in labs as we speak. And people have those strange desires, like gay people with wombs to have babies, so gay men can have babies. But I just wanted to get a point across that the furry fandom is trying to negate their desire by saying it's about a fetish between people dressing up as animal suits and expressing that sexuality, but not the animal, not the apparent animalism. Well, anime is also liked in conventions, and this fascination with anime has led to the realization that anime is produced by Japanese women, even Korean or Chinese women. And therefore, if you really like Asian art and Asian culture, you should pursue an Asian woman. Or if you're an Asian man. I know there's a lot of white girls into BTS and they want to pursue Korean men. They're called Koreaboos. And a lot of white men who love hang tie, and so they pursue a Japanese woman. And it's then when you look up the whole thing about white male, Asian female, or Asian male, white female relationships, it's a form of white supremacy. It's a fetish. Dear Korean girls, stop worshiping white people. And you have these like depressive, condescending hatred towards white men pursuing Asian women, which you think would solve like multiculturalism, diversity, or create this Eurasianism, whatever. But under the neoliberal system, they know that this CIA form of social control, I believe it's so white people can remain white and rich, and that we can fight off the forces of China or something like that. But, I don't want to be real conspiratorial, but the thing I'm saying is, in a convention, if someone likes anime, their true desires is they want to reproduce with an Asian person. That's their true, particularly Japanese. That is their true desire. And it goes back to the furries who want to do it with animals. It's people who want to do it with Asian women. And so go to your local convention and count how many white male, Asian females they are, Asian male, white females, and ask me, how white supremacist are they? And go up to them and question. But they don't. It's all this guilt tripping that white people have. But the point is that the convention acts as this queer culture in denial. So there's this transformation here. Furries go into bestiality. Anime, Asian women to men. I didn't mention this one, but a white nationalist convention like American Renaissance or things like that, it's free to act on racial hatred or a form of neo-Nazism. American Renaissance says we're all about white advocates and saving the middle class when you have guys wearing swastikas in the convention hall. So obviously, this is a Eurocentric way of thinking about this. It's not like, there's a queer culture of, I guess, blacks into anime and furry who like Asian men and bestiality and whatnot, or blacks who go to white nationalist conference. That's super queer, but I'm talking in the form that it's Eurocentric, that this is into the Western American experience. Our desires become clear, but no one wants to bring it up. So why are we not honest with them? Why do we always have to play games of consuming in a market and not pursuing what we really want in this nerd convention? Or that we can, we just have to be discreet about it. I don't want to go into the works of Renee Girard or Dick Hebdige, but I strongly suggest watching Carefree Wandering's video on the topic of identity after authenticity, Abigail Thorne's profile, where he bashes philosophy tube and as well talks about profile ideology and about how the market really transforms the way we think about the world. So if you could stop this video and go find Identity After Authenticity, Abigail Thorne's profile, please watch that. It's about 26 minutes long. Now, I just wanted to conclude that this is really a battle of authenticity versus desire under this social control setting, that nerd conventions act as markets and communes for queers who wish to break up society. Queers being antisocial in the first place, they don't even know how to be social, so you create a fake society. And that because of that, conventions emulate normative culture, with the expectations of their queerness that they act, that they say, I like animals, I like Asian women, I'm a black neo-Nazi, etc. Sincerity and desire must be discreet, sadly, under these markets. That we all know we like Asian women, but we can't say that because it's politically incorrect. In Marxist semantics, I see capitalism and consumer culture getting in the way of true intentions. That's peer pressure and shaming that you do like that kind of ideal, that desire. That's why Zooer Than Now is constantly attacked. People just don't know how to act when they face with their id. Conventions create a containment box or a market to stop resistance from this opening of desire. They rather create an echo chamber, echoing back the party lines of neoliberalism, social justice warrior, etc., all that, of middle class values, of this whole egalitarian, POC talk stuff. And finally, the values at conventions are decadent. Furry sex parties, drinking of alcohol, treating like there's bro culture. I've seen this at a video game convention before, and it's horrified me too, especially if you're this, asexual, gay kind of nerd, and you don't want to hear that. You just want to make friends. That's scary too. I didn't elaborate more on the value part, but it's true. At these convention halls, these antisocial people who are economically depraved and live with their parents, they just want to use the furry convention to live a bizarre swinger life emulating the Chad, like F. Roger Devlin said in Sexual Utopia and Power. And this is very disturbing. I think liberalism is the disease of all this, and the further we destroy liberalism, we can examine for what the nerd convention really is, and it's not some underground activity of plural pronouns, but rather we should look at it as a depraved form of a queerness under the market, that it's this fake form of belonging and whatnot. As long as we understand that, we can move beyond things like this and focus on real issues like abolishing the capitalist system. So, class dismissed. Thanks for listening.